Welcome to Sib Spot. Today's Reddit stories are from Malicious Compliance. Story 1 is by Cart Queen. Can't park in my driveway? Okay, I'll block parking in front of your house. Many years ago, we lived in a rental house in a cul-de-sac. One of the neighbors refused to interact with us because we were only renters while she owned her house. Whenever anyone parked in front of her house, she would demand they move their car because that was her parking spot. Well, one weekend we were having a birthday party for our kids. We had to double park cars in our driveway to accommodate the extra vehicles and avoid parking in front of her house. This meant that 2 of the cars overlapped the sidewalk a little. We're in a cul-de-sac. Kids play in the street all the time, so it didn't block anyone from walking past. Midway through the party, we have a couple cops show up. Our neighbor called them to complain because her daughter couldn't ride her bike on the sidewalk due to our parking. She could have easily gone around the cars, and the cops agreed it was stupid, but technically it was illegal to park on the sidewalk and we'd have to move our cars. I told them we had issues with the neighbor when we parked in front of her house, and they said street parking is public parking and free for anyone as long as the vehicles don't remain there for an extended period of time. We moved the double-parked cars to in front of her house, and from then on, we always parked at least one of our cars in front of her house, even if there was room in our driveway, and parked in such a way to block any other cars from parking in front of her house. Fair's fair in love and war, or lack of love and war. Snooty neighbors that don't interact with you and then call and complain are the worst. There's nothing she can do about this. She can't call the cops and complain. They're legally parked there. They're not staying for an extended period of time. Our next story is by Stress Ate All, but I think their name is supposed to be Stress Ball. No late lunches, no exceptions. I work a field services job where faults are called in and are attended to within a few hours. Lots of driving, very unpredictable workloads with, while you're here, faults. Some venues can have as many as 300 machines, so it's not uncommon to have 3 to 10 extras mentioned on top of the original issue. Usually, we would just fix them and not bother wasting time having a call raised, processing it through our job system, etc. 2 extra minutes unaccounted for is more efficient than 2 minutes repairing and 5 minutes processing a job. I got into the habit of picking up enough work at once so that I could reasonably expect to run out of work with 1 or 2 hours left at the end of my day. If anything went wrong, I'd have a buffer to get the work done by the end of the day, even if it meant skipping my lunch break. Typically, I'd be taking my lunch break around 2 to 2:30 for half an hour on a 4 p.m. finish if nothing went wrong. I got rebuked for taking lunch too late. Explaining the rationale didn't help. Policy is policy. So now I take one job at a time instead of taking multiple logical jobs that minimize time spent traveling. I raise a call for every single extra job, even if it's a 1-minute fix. I put down tools and take my lunch break exactly halfway through my shift, no matter what I'm in the middle of. This is likely going to result in venues unable to trade for 30 minutes longer in some cases. The end result is that I have no stress on me because I only ever have a single job behind me. I'll never get caught at the end of the day with extra work left undone. I waste more time raising new jobs, reducing the actual number of fixes I get done each day, but my stats will look like they've doubled. And of course, my meal breaks are exactly how they asked them to be. I'm happier through the course of my day than I've been in a long time. Your happiness during a course of a long day is the only thing that matters and should matter while you're on the job. Your job is your job is your job. I think there was a commercial on TV years ago that said that, and it's always kind of stuck. It had these people going to work and it was all like dreary and dark, and they said, your job is your job is your job, as they marched into work in line. Most people do not like the job they do. Some people do. It's rare. But if you love your work, then you don't really love your leisure time. And what is the point of work if not to provide more leisure time for you or more time with your family, if you consider that leisure time? Our next post is by Acute Death 2023. Folding doors. Not my revenge, but one I saw from my office window. I work in an office in an industrial estate. There are various types of companies around us: trucking, cement, roofing, etc. Consequently, there are lots of trucks traveling on these streets at any given time. Important to note, our office is on a roundabout, and there are short, low, concrete barriers dividing the approaches off and on the roundabout. So, limited width. On the day in question, a B-double, truck plus 2 trailers, pulls up nearly at the barrier. No parking area, no space. Opens his door and hops out of the truck. He goes around to the other side and then hops back into his cab. Leaving his truck door open, he then proceeds to do some paperwork. Another truck from the same company pulls up close and shouts at driver 1 to close his door so driver 2 can get past. Driver 1 is being a prat and refuses, says, "Go around me." Driver 2 does so. Because of the concrete barriers, there's very limited space, so driver 2 accidentally catches driver 1's truck door and folds the whole thing backwards. There's a bit of noise. The door caused a little bit of damage to the canvas side of truck 2, but the door of truck 1 was wrecked. Driver 2 went on his merry way. Driver 1 managed to finally pull his door mostly closed. It was still about 4 inches open, and drove very slowly away. We assumed to go back to the depot. Sadly, we never heard the outcome, but we can only imagine driver 1 trying to explain it to management. The instant karma was a thing of beauty. All he asked him for was for him to close his door, and he refused. Instant karma is the best in malicious compliance. I'm not sure if this guy actually hit his door on purpose. It's very possible that he did. They work for the same company. One of them is going to get scolded, and it's probably not going to be driver 2. At least hopefully not. Our next post is by Amazing Reserve 8002. Let's threaten the people on sick leave. I was working in a plastic factory a few years back. The machinery I was working on mostly did plastic for hay bales. The group I was in consisted of 4 people, including me, and 2 of them did close to nothing while me and this really old dude had to do their part too every day. I was working 6 days a week doing the job of 3 people, and one time I overslept, and when the manager called me, I quickly drove to work and was approximately 15 minutes late. The old dude retired, and I was left with the 2 guys that left the site constantly to do God knows what. And one time, the robot that usually does the packaging didn't get the plastic roll in its package, and I went there to put it in. When you enter the area the robot is working in, the sensors immediately stop the robot. The robot, for some reason, suddenly started moving and punched the back of my right hand, and it was crushed. I got an ambulance to ER and got 1 month of sick leave, and when I went to turn it in, my boss jumped. I explained to him that my hand also has nerve damage, and I left to play Witcher. 4 days into the sick leave, my boss calls me and tells me that if I don't get back to work earlier, he would have to reconsider extending my contract, and after stuttering a bit, I told him I understood, and that was the end of the call. I went back the next week, and when I got to my machines, the orders that we had before my sick leave were still ongoing and hadn't made almost any progress. I walked through the cafeteria into the office area and told my boss I changed my mind and I'm gonna quit, which made him really angry. I told him, good luck with the important person order, and made my leave. The huge factory is next to a bunch of really small towns, and word spread about the case, and no one would fill mine or the old man's position, and they had to close the part I was working in. A couple of comments below brought up a really good point. He could literally sue this place for not giving him his allotted sick time. He got injured on the job. He does not have to come back when his doctor says he has 30 days off. But, I also gotta wonder. I've played Witcher. I'm pretty sure you need both hands to play that game. Maybe he wasn't as injured as he's trying to appear. I don't know, maybe you can play it with one hand and one using the mouse, and the hand just sits on the mouse and you just gotta use your 2 fingers. If he's playing it on a console, though, I think he needs both hands to grip the controller. Our stories have come to a close for today. Until we meet again, have a spectacular day.